Simpson, the happiness engineer, and I'm always blessed to be with my co host, Mr. Paul Hoyt. Together, we are curing racism. We are facing commonly accepted that have led to our natural behavioral reflexes or bias behavioral. Together, we look at and examine the things that have kept us apart so that one conversation at a time, we can move us closer together because the human always do better when we're all working together. Good afternoon, Paul.
Hey, good afternoon, Paz. You're looking sharp today with your hat on. I want to hear a little bit about your hat, my
Yes,
friend.
yes. So I am wearing a Brody hat. Brody is an Ebonic term or a black term or however you want to call it, right? For brother inside many of the inner cities, right? They would say my Brody, instead of my brother, and this is a clothing line that we are supporting. And I thought since I'm on camera with my brother, I would wear a Brody hat. So he now understands, he's my Brody, not just my brother. Now he has a new term to add to his vocabulary.
I love that. It kind of makes me think of a brother that I'm on the road with, because we hear about roadies that are part of your traveling group and then brothers. So Brody to me, if I would call you a Brody, that would be, a brother that I take journeys with. And I'm,
Yeah.
in a very
One that
real
you're
well,
willing to
you are.
break bread with. Yes. Yes. You get it. One that you it's a little deeper, one that you're willing to break bread with. One that you're willing,
Ah,
a good trip, eat a great meal, make some money together. Right? Those are my Brodies, right? So yes,
love
this
it.
is awesome. And I thought it was important to wear this hat because we were talking such a heavy topic, leadership. You know, um,
Yeah.
we've seen all types of leaders in our society, you know, all types of leaders that businesses, run our cities and states, but we don't categorize these leaders so that we know who we're following versus why we're following, right? And where are they leading us? So, who are we following? Why are we following them? And where are they leading us? I thought we
Yeah.
had a pretty unique discussion on Monday about two different types of leaders. And I thought that that would be, and I guess we both agreed that that would be an amazing topic to talk about today, right? This leaders that bring us together, right? And leaders that pull us apart.
I love it. So, and we are, I would say cursed is the word that came to mind with having so many divisive leaders in our society today, mainly in the area of politics. And there's a huge difference between those who want to divide us, who want us to argue with each other, who don't want us to get along, who don't even want us to collaborate or cooperate in any way. They don't want us to negotiate. They don't want us to find the common ground for one of two reasons. Number one is they're too freaking scared to do that. They really, really think that those others, whoever they might be, are so dangerous that we can't work with them in any way at all. But I think that that's extremely rare, maybe like 1%. I think 99% of the time they are divisive because it serves them, because the more angry, the more frightened their group is, the more likely they are to follow them as a leader. That's a fundamental of any cult or any, I would say, warring society, is that the more frightened the followers are, the more likely they are to follow the lead of the leaders. So people use that divisive rhetoric and those divisive tactics because it serves them, not because it serves their community, and certainly not because it serves their people. And it's easy to tell those people because they will tell you that every single person in their opposing group is an evil person, is a bad person. Call them names, cockroaches, ants, all kinds of things to try to dehumanize them in some way so that you can, so that their followers, their community sees every person who wears that particular uniform, who wears those clothes, who talks in the way that they do, who votes in the way that they do, as being a mortal enemy of theirs. Peaceful leaders, on the other hand, will say things like, we disagree with their positions, we disagree with their actions, but they will give you space to understand that there are good people in that other group. And if you just ask the right basic questions, you will discover the good people in that other group and you can have those conversations.
Hmm. Yes. I love what you're talking about here, right? If you just get out of your own way, right, and say hello, right? Hello is just a great thing to say to someone that you've never met, you know, and we can learn so much from one another. We actually cheat ourselves out of the experience of life when we are segregated and not experiencing life outside of our culture. You know, um, One of the greatest blessings that happened to me um, was I was removed from my comfort space at such a young age. I was taken from Harlem and then sent to one of the wealthiest prep schools in America. So the dichotomy of going home, to this welfare home while going to school with, you know, one of my friends in high school became president of the Bank of Panama. We have judges, lawyers. There was so many, second generation judges. My dad was a judge, so I'm a judge, which is great, but my mom didn't come from that. So, that being outside of my comfort zone, not only did it help me grow, but it helped those 250 students that I went to school with grow immediately,
Yeah,
because now you have a black student in your school. You have to deal with it. You know, it forced the it forced the school to grow, because one of the things that has always been important is to have teachers that look like you.
yeah,
And that school started to hire more diverse teachers because they had now more diverse students, right? So it allowed the faculty to grow, not only in numbers, but in mindset and heart set. There were so many things. And then it allowed us to see what leadership was. I had a teacher who wasn't even my history teacher at the time, Bonnie Brill. She's probably watching. Bonnie, you know, Bonnie Brill. She used to get on me because coming from New York, we didn't say the word ask. We said asked, right? I asked this person this, I asked this person that. And she would get on me about pronunciation of words, understanding what words not only sound like, but what do they mean. So by the time I actually had a class with Bonnie Brill, my pronunciation of axe was ask, right? My understanding of words was vast, and we can have a real conversation. But young Paz, 14-year-old Paz, thought Bonnie was just picking on me,
mm,
right? Because she couldn't understand why I said axed instead of asked. She didn't understand why my pronunciation was this way versus that way, you
Yeah.
know. But if you ever pay attention to your newscasters, they all, whether in the Midwest, the South, the North, they all have the same sound.
Yeah.
It's it's done on purpose,
Yeah.
right? So what Bonnie was doing was an act of love, even though I didn't understand it. She was making sure that although I stood out because of how I looked, I didn't have to stand out because my pronunciations of words were incorrect. I may have known what they meant, but how do they come off the tongue? How do people hear them? How do they perceive you based on what you're saying, not just what you're doing?
I think,
So it was a growth.
yeah, and I think
Amen.
that's what great leaders do, who really want to see people get along, who want to see people be collaborative and cooperative, and they want to, they focus on teamwork. Yeah, I was reflecting on this before our conversation today about how does this apply to business? And the way that it applies to business is that businesses are really good at applying, which one of the things that we talk about all the time, which is when we learn to see through the superficial differences that divide us, we will discover the common values that unite us. And great leaders get people at their organization to focus on that common vision. They get them to focus on those common values. They understand the why of the business, why we're in business, how we serve other people, and they drive that into everybody at the organization so that we have some common foundation that we can rely upon, that we can go back to whenever we need to talk about tough things. So, and I think in our spiritual communities, our religious communities, our political communities, I just encourage you to look for and elevate the status of those people who encourage you to see beyond those superficial differences, who understand that not everybody in our tribe believes every single thing that the leaders do, that there can be some disagreement and some divisiveness, and certainly not everybody in that other tribe over there agrees with everything that their leaders do either. That we have an opportunity to discuss differences, that we have an opportunity to discuss common values like family, health, freedom, democracy, things that we hold in common that we value so dear, so that we can do whatever it is that we do, whatever we negotiate, whatever we create together, that it supports those common values that we share.
Yes, that is such a beautiful space, right? That we can come together in harmony. Life is like a great song when all of the pieces of the band is working together. It's so harmonious.
Yeah.
But all it takes, right, is one person to pop a guitar string, one drummer, right, to bang a little too loud, right? And now we are off key. So we all have a part to play in this song called life, right? You may not be the lead singer. You may only play the triangle, right? But that triangle when it hits, if you hit it with the love that it's supposed to hit, will only make that song ting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We get to choose, right? And I love that we come together here every week to give people the honest option of how to choose,
Yeah.
right? Why to choose, and just not to be a follower, right? Good leaders know who and when to follow, right? Are we asking ourselves, are we building ourselves, our companies, our friends to be good leaders? Are we following because that's, what everyone's doing? Or are we following because what they are saying is in alignment with our mindset, with our heart set? Are we following because where they're speaking speaks to our spirit and our heart, right? Not just speaks to our sensibilities. Are we following because it is making this world a better place? If those aren't the questions you're asking of any great leader, then you may not be asking the right questions. So,
I love it. So look for
Paul,
those leaders.
thank you.
Yeah, look for those leaders who have a little bit of wisdom about them, that are not manipulating you for their own personal advantage, who recognize that not every member of that other tribe believes the same way. Not every member of our tribe believes in the same thing. That diversity, that differences are a good thing because they challenge us, they give us the opportunity to look at the world in a slightly different way. And if we focus on that foundation, if we focus on those common values, we will have a strong, uniting foundation that we can use, negotiate, collaborate, cooperate, get along, and find directions, find actions, find attitudes and behaviors that serve us all in the long run and for generations to come.
Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you. And know that love is freeing, right? To love is to lift some of those burdens off of you. Right? There is someone right now who can truly benefit by getting to know you, not who other people said you were, not what the media might have written about you, not what somebody may have blogged about you, but reaching out and allowing someone to get to know you. Because God so loved the world that he gave us you. So smile
I love that.
and know that you are more than enough.
So if you belong to an organization or a company that you think could stand with a little more cooperation, a little less divisiveness within the organization, reach out to Paz or I here at curingracism.com. We'd love to come in and talk to you about doing a workshop, doing a presentation, doing a keynote presentation for your group to talk about the principles of inclusion, to talk about the value of diversity and differences and honoring those differences, to talk about tribal instincts, tribal conflict, and most importantly, to talk about what we can do every single day to get along better, to harvest each other's wisdom and great ideas so that we can learn to see through those superficial differences that divide us, find those common values that unite us, and create companies, organizations, tribes with great beauty, with a heart.
You froze on. Get your last sentence. You,
Find a way to create a group, to find a community, to help your community have a bigger heart so that you can serve each other well and honor those honor those core desires of health and happiness, boosted performance, improved relationships, greater success, and just a more meaningful life.
yes. We thank you guys for joining us every single week as we look to put a little bit more love in the world, put a lot more responsibility into leadership, right? And right, accountability for our actions. If I can, you can, and we can all love.
Love it. Love you, Paz. See you next week.
Love you. See us next week and make sure that you are coming through so that you can get the best 20